Hello and welcome to our second step of Revit 2019. If you go to Open just below Projects and open up step number 2 with the data sets that I've given you. So the first task we're going to do is set some grids out for our building. This is situated under the Architectural tab and right along to nearly to the end just here. With grids you can actually manipulate the building during its process by stretching and shrinking the building, which will become more evident at later videos. So let's get started. Select grids, and our first grid will be vertically down between these 4 markers that you currently see on the screen. Once you have drawn your grid line, we're now going to want to move it 3 meters to the right. Under the green Modify Grids tab, you'll notice an icon that looks like this. Select this icon, then select your grid and move it slightly to the right. As you can see on my screen, there is a temporary dimension that is constantly changing, and you will notice that it is in meters. We will change this to millimeters shortly, but for now we can actually drag it to the right or to the left to get the number that we want, or we can manually change it on the keyboard. So for now, let's type in 3, then enter. Once you have done that, you will notice that temporary dimension shows 3.00. Now to end this command, you could either press escape or again this modify button here. For now, I'm going to press escape, and you will notice that the user interface is no longer green. Now, to change from meters to millimeters, we need to go to the Manage tab. Within the Manage tab, you will see under Settings, Project Units. Select this button. You will have a new window that has opened, and you can see by length we are currently under meters and centimeters. I would like you to select this and change it to millimeters. Once done, press OK and OK again. Once you have done that, it is always good and safe to double check and see if it has changed from meters to millimeters. One way of doing that is selecting the second grid line, and you will notice that the temporary dimensions I was talking about earlier on has now become 3000.0. One of the really cool things about grid lines is that they automatically number themselves. If you zoom into the top, you will notice our first grid line is number 1 and our second grid line is number 2. For this project, we're wanting to add 4 more grid lines. Rather than always copying by using the copy tool, we can actually use the array tool. So select grid line 2, the Modified Grid tab should turn green, and select Array. Once you select Array, you will notice that the Modified Grids has another new panel below it. This is the Options bar. We're wanting to do 4 more grids, so I want you to demark Group and Associate and change number 2 to 5 because you want 4 more grids. Once you have done that, select the grid and move 10 meters to the right. Once you have done that and you have clicked the command, you will notice we have 6 grids in total. The next part of setting out our building, we want to do horizontal grids. So we do exactly like the same we did before. Architecture tab, along to the end, select grids. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a horizontal grid from here to here. Once you have finished that command, remember you can either press the escape key or the modify button. For now, I'm going to use the modify button, and you will notice that our user interface is no longer green. As you can see on the screen, we now have 7 grid lines. I'd like you to zoom into the left hand side of the grid line and select the number 7 by clicking it twice. You will notice that this is now editable, and I would like you to change it to a capital A and then press return. And then press modify tab or escape tab, or pressing negative space to end the command. Now, just like before, when we arrayed grid line number 2 to number 6, we're wanting to do exactly the same for grid A. We select our grid, we go back up to the Modify Grids tab, which is currently in green, select Array. In the options bar, we're going to change number 2 to 5 because we want 4 more grids. We then select the grid line and again move down by 10 meters or type 10,000 on your number keypad and then press enter. If you zoom out, you will notice that our grid lines from A have changed B, C, D and E. Just like before, we had a 3 meter gap between grid lines 1 and 2. We're wanting to do the same with grid line A. Select grid line A and you will notice our temporary dimension has arrived on our screen. To change this, select the temporary dimension and type 3000. Then enter. We're wanting to do exactly the same with grid line E. Select grid line E, select the temporary dimension and type 3000 and enter. If you press escape to exit the command, you will notice our modify tab is no longer green. Let's zoom out. As you can see, our grid lines are a little bit messy. Let's tighten them up a little bit. If you zoom in to the top of grid line 1 and select it, you'll notice we have a very small little circle and a blue dashed line. Select the circle and drag it while holding down your mouse button to approximately here. We're going to do exactly the same at the bottom, so zoom into the bottom of grid line 1, select that small circle while holding the mouse, zoom out on the wheel on your mouse, zoom back in slightly and leave it about here. We're going to do the same on the right hand side of grid lines A. Select grid line A, select the circle by holding the mouse button down and pull it in slightly. If we do exactly the same on the far left to grid line A, just to tighten it up a little bit. Our next step is to see the grid lines in section or in elevation. For now, we'll go to the elevation under the properties browser, which you can find here. Under elevations, select the east elevation by double clicking. You will notice a new window has opened and you can see your grids E, D, C, B and A, as well as your levels. Revit automatically has 2 levels with any new project. Levels are somewhat similar to grid lines. If you were to select level 2, you will notice we have a temporary dimension of 4000, which we can manually change here, or alternatively, we can hover over the 4000, click once and change this to 3000. And you will notice that our grid line moves down. Now, just like the grid lines, we can also tidy this up. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see here the small little circle, just like we had on the grid lines. If you click once, zoom out while holding the button and drag slowly over to the right, we will help tidy up our levels. As our building requires 6 levels, we're going to draw some more in 2 different ways. Our first way is to go to the Architectural tab, along near to the end, and select Level. Once you've done this, you will notice that the user interface has gone green. Now, just like grids, we can draw levels very similarly, but only in a horizontal fashion. We hover over the end of this grid and you will notice there is a blue dashed line. Once you find that line, click once, drag your mouse all the way over to the right until you get another blue dashed line which is linking levels 1 to level 2 to level 3. Then click again. Now press escape and you have ended the command. A quicker and more efficient way of drawing levels is by pressing the level button again under the architectural tab. But before you start drawing, you will notice in this modify place level section under draw, there is a button that has a green line and a cursor, which is called pick lines. Select this. Once you've selected this, in the options bar, you will notice there's an offset button. We're going to want to offset this by 3 meters. So let's type in 3000. Once you've done that, press return. Go back down to your drawing. Hover over level 3 and you will notice there's a blue dashed dotted line above, which will be 3 meters high. Click once and you will notice that level 4 has appeared. As this building requires 6 levels, let's do this a couple more times. Level 5, level 6, press escape twice and you've finished the command. Just like before, we're wanting to tidy up our levels and grids. We select grid line E, find the small circle at the top, hold your mouse button and drag up above level 6. We might as well tidy up levels as well. Select level 6, the small blue circle, and drag slightly to the right. Once you're done, press escape. Now we're ready to start modelling our first element. Now we're wanting to switch back to level 1, and we have 2 ways of doing this. In 2019 we have the tabs, which previously was not in any other version. Alternatively, if you were to select the East tab and then in your project browser double click level 1, it will automatically go to that level. The first modelling element that we are going to do is a floor. Under the architectural tab, under build, you will see a button called floor. Select this. Once you have selected it, you will notice the user interface has gone green and that our grid lines have been greyed out. This indicates that we are in a sketch mode. To draw our floor, I want you to choose the rectangle button here. Select that once. Zoom in to grid line 6 and A and hover over the intersection. Click once on the intersection, zoom out, then zoom in between grid lines 4 and 5 and click once. You will notice that we have some temporary dimensions and we also have 3 lock symbols. We're wanting to lock 3 of these pink lines to the lock symbols. Hover over this lock symbol until it goes gold, click once. And again for the other 2. Hover over until it's gold, click once. Hover over till it's gold, click once. Now we want to finish this sketch mode, we click the tick button. Now that we have drawn our floor, let's see it in 3D. We have 2 ways of doing this. At the quick access toolbar at the top, there is a small house. Click this once. A new tab will open and it will show you our floor. The second way to view this tab is also under the project browser. Just like before, if we were to close this tab and then double click on the 3D view in the project browser, we will get to the same view. There are 3 ways to navigate in your 3D space. Option number 1 is to hold down the Shift key and your middle roller ball on the mouse. And then once you're doing that, you can rotate around the object. Another way is the view cube, which you can find in the top right hand corner. If you were to select a face, it will spin the model accordingly. Another option is the steering wheel, which you will find here. If you click that, a little wheel that will come up and you can orbit by pressing this button continuously and it will pivot around a central axis. To close this, hover over here and press the X button. So this concludes our second step. It is advised that you do not save these files so that you can use them again. So the best way to close this is by pressing X here, X here, X here, and do not save.